All right, welcome to the MLB Network podcast. I'm here with my man Al Leiter.
Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun.
let's go. Let's relive.
Yeah, all right.
We're getting ready for the postseason.
Right.
This is when the weather's starting to get a little cooler. It starts getting darker a little earlier, and you know what that means.
And everybody
right?
starts paying attention to every pitch.
Let's go.
Yeah. And then the added playoffs. I mean, we're going to reminisce and go down memory lane, but
I was blessed.
yeah.
I was blessed because I was drafted by the Braves, and I came up to the big leagues, and they went to the postseason. I was in the midst of that run, and they went every year, and the expectation was we're going every year, get on board. And so all I knew when I left the Braves after the 2004 season, I went to Texas. When I walked in, I was like, wow, because we didn't make it that year. We were like 80 and 82, 81. And when we were packing up our stuff that last day of the regular season, I'm like, this is brutal. What are we doing?
It's funny.
We're not going to October?
It's funny you say that because I circled back with Derek Jeter at the end of my career.
Yeah.
And, you know, his whole thing was we didn't win. If we didn't win at all, it was a disappointment. I remember I got traded back. I know we're going in reverse.
No,
But I got traded back. My last year with the Mets was 2004. They didn't want me back. I signed with the Marlins in 2005. I was terrible. I get traded back to where it all started for me in the Yankees. And it was such a cool thing. Joe Torre started relieved. And we lost in the DS against the Angels in 2005. So we're flying back
Yes, I
from
remember
Game
that.
5 of the DS. Bartolo Colon really pitched great. Messina, not so much. And I'm sitting back, Derek's sitting there, and Bernie and Posada, whatever. And we're bummed, right? And Derek, I said, Derek, you had a great year. Like he's like, and he did. He was like 3 something.
Hit 349
Yeah, he
or
did.
something crazy.
And I'm like, no. He's like, no. If we didn't go at least to the World Series, like that was the
mindset.
and that's all he knew. Like
Yeah.
what you just said, that's all you knew, and it becomes part of your DNA.
Yeah.
And that was Derek from
I
day one.
chased it in free agency as much as I could. Tried to chase it. All right, let's
go.
We got war stories from the postseason.
Yeah.
Let's go back. 1993, you're a young blood with the Blue Jays.
Not that young, but okay. Thank you. Because I was up in the big leagues '87. I had some rocky roads.
All
but-
right, so
okay.
what's the memories there? That's the Joe Carter homer, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, tell me about it. So I'll lead up to that, D-Row. I got traded for Jesse Barfield in 1989 from the Yankees to the Blue Jays. And this was a time before the Blue Jays became a thing, right? They were playing at the old exhibition stadium, which was the Toronto Argonauts football stadium. It was cool, but it was so makeshift. Sky Dome didn't even open yet. And I grew up a Mets fan, but we're Jersey. I'm playing for the Yankees. I got my buddies coming up. We're going to Bronx or whatever, and I'm going down to Manhattan and doing whatever. Single guy. I'm like, Toronto. Turned out to be the best thing. Injuries, problem
Sneaky
with
town.
awesome town.
Awesome town.
So I had 2 injuries. I was called up at the end of '92. I was around the club, but I wasn't on an active roster. We won the World Series and we beat your Braves in 1992.
92.
Come back in '93. I make the team. I was starter reliever. I was kind of that swing starter. Anyway, it was a fun year. It was a great year.
Guys were stacked. I've watched highlights of that. I remember there was a big game. It was like Stottlemyre not Citizens Bank.
Yeah,
old
the
stadium,
Vet, yeah.
Where it was like back and forth.
Yeah.
That was a big World Series.
15-14 was game
14.
4. I came in that game. This was my first hit ever at bat.
That's
I hit
right.
a double to left field. Mitch Thompson? Thompson. He's playing left field. Crucky's trailing.
Milt.
Thank you. Milt Thompson. Thank you, Milt. Crucky's not doing much at that time. I don't know what he was batting. And he's like, beep, beep, this is not easy, that Leiter. I hit a double. I turn him. I'm like, I know. I haven't had a bat in 10 years since high school. Crucky goes, what? That was my first AB ever. And I was terrible, as you knew, as a hitter. But the 93, what you just said, I think about all the cool teams that I played on, starting with your Yankees, our Yankees, with Donnie Mattingly at first, Willie Randolph at second, Pags at third. I threw to Rick Cerrone, Winfield, Claudel. It was just so cool.
Yeah.
But that Toronto team of what Pat Gillick put together, of back-to-back world champions, we had
Stars.
We had Hall of Fame
I know.
stars.
All over.
And even the guys that
Molitor,
were. Molly. Ricky, Winfield, Jack Morris, Dave Steeb. We brought in Dave Stewart. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And we had we had that cachet. And as you started with, you expected to win every year. That was that franchise from 89, 90, 91, every single year.
Joe Carter got to live the ultimate moment. I don't think you can have a bigger one.
Did you ever hear Tom Cheek's call? I mean, it's legendary. Right?
Yeah, I've heard it.
Touch them all, Joe. You'll never hit it bigger.
So what were you thinking in that moment?
I'm on the bench. I came in and I pitched. I got out of a jam for Stu in 7th inning, and then pitched a scoreless 8th. We're down by 2, and then top 9, Dwayne Ward comes in, who was our closer.
Who was filthy.
Filthy.
I remember him.
And nasty slider.
Yeah.
His elbow like pow. And we're thinking game 7. We're up 3-2. Schilling, who shoved in his game, game 2 or 3, whichever one he was aligned, he was pitching game 7. He threw a shutout. And I'm looking at it going, all right, we have a great lineup. Paul Molitor, and as you just
But
cited.
I'll take the pitching every time.
Always. Schill was great. And for Joe, homer, Ricky gets on, Molly base hit up the middle, and then off of Mitch Williams. Joe didn't even know after he hit it. He was like, I think it was a fastball, slider. I'm like,
it was crazy because you lose sight of the ball. Normal home runs, it almost like stayed within his bat path.
Yeah.
Like he picked it off the inside and just shot right over the wall.
But it is true. So I'm sitting in the bench, just pitched the 7th and 8th. I came out of the pen, and Joe, right here, we're on third base. Touch them all, Joe. Place goes bananas, as you know, up in Toronto. You were up there, packed every single night, 50,339 every night. Awesome.
What'd you do after?
Drank a lot, right? What did we do? A lot of Labatt's Blue. I like Labatt's Blue. Oh my God, it was. Yeah, we were.
You had some signature moments here. I'm looking down just to jostle the memory. You got to start in Game 7 in '97 against Cleveland. Yeah. I got a funny story kind of leading into that because I ended up playing with Jarrett Wright in Atlanta, and he opposed you that Game 7.
Shoved.
And I remember saying to him, Jarrett, were you nervous? He was like 20 years old. He goes, I was too young and stupid to be nervous, and I threw 100 miles an hour. You could either hit it or you couldn't. So he goes, I really wasn't nervous. This is what I had.
Yeah.
And no one had hit it to that point.
Yeah.
So I was going to go out there and just throw a hunch.
I like that comment from Jarrett, and he was so good that night. Believe it or not, I was one of the worst hitters to ever stand in the Major League box. He walked me twice.
Did he really?
Yeah. God. I was getting in the box. This guy's throwing 100, and all I'm saying is like, God, I just hope it's away every time. Like it was bullets. If he had any idea, I had no chance of wanting to swing, let alone swing.
You know what I love about you working with you and competing against you? Everyone could do it a little different, Al. I know there's some people that say, hey, I want to just be boo. I want to be sinus rhythm. I don't want you to see me sweat. I've been there, done that. I didn't feel like that was you at all. I always felt like you understood how big the moment was. You wanted to rise to that. You let people know how important it was to you on the mound.
All right, so here I want to kind of push back a little on that because I do think when I got to the mental state of what I knew what my job was, is what you just said about Jarrett Wright. I threw 100, and what else can I do? That kind of thing. I do believe this. And I don't know whether I actually performed it, and maybe it was a fantasy, but Derek always talked about that, Jeter, about, they talk about players rising to the occasion. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that's true, D-Ro.
You don't?
No, and here's what I think. If you're in a state of greatness or you're a top echelon player, you perform at your best based on that mindset. And whether it's May, and I know this, you might give me some pushback on it, whether it's May, July, August, or Game 7 of a World Series, I got to a place where I was able to control what I can control. And I know it all sounds like stuff out of a book, but it's real. And when you don't change the environment in your mind of what your job is, you always stay in that elite state.
Yeah.
So the players that actually don't perform are the ones that allow the circumstance to affect. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No, Jeter always used to say the unprepared are the ones the game gets fast to.
Yeah.
It's
So here's
spot on.
the comfort level for me got to a place where I was, all right, am I mentally and physically prepared? Did I do the scouting report? Do I know how I'm going to pitch to the guys? Do I have a process and a plan? What is my plan? Am I physically prepared? What's all the things that I can control? And when I got to that place, without allowing the exterior distractions to come into the task at
you
hand,
let it come in for a split second though. You gotta feel it.
let me tell you something. No, Dero.
No.
If it happens, guess what, Mike? What you do? You step off. Now they can't. Step off. Gator used to walk when I got first to the big leagues. Ron Guidry would walk all the way to second base. If you remember as a kid, when things were happening, and he was a little smaller by stature, but he'd stand up there and he'd go, and he'd look out to center field at Yankee Stadium like he collected himself, and that's a real thing. So when it does happen and you feel it's reeling, and it does, right? Walk, double, bloop, guy boots it. You're like, uh-oh. You got to have the reset.
Yeah.
And that's the great players. The great players don't allow it to happen one bat, next at bat, next at bat. It's you stop it right away. That's where I was. All right, I'm gonna flip it on you. So your first postseason was 01?
Yes, Braves.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're Braves. You lose to the D-backs.
A D-backs team that was
Yeah, tell me about it.
crazy loaded.
Tell-
I mean, that was the year. That was 9/11.
Yep.
That was Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling at the height of their powers. I would say we were very much the underdog in that series going in. And the funny things I remember about that were Schilling used to tip his pitches. I mean, he did.
What did he do?
He would basically tell you what was coming. I wasn't starting on a regular basis. I was just watching, but he was a guy, he was heater split.
Yeah.
Right? So when he would go heater, you would see like a V on the top of his glove.
Okay.
Like you have it. And then on his split, it was like that. It was wide, like more moon shaped.
Yeah.
And he wasn't hiding it.
Well,
But
how about Randy?
but
Randy
tipped as
tipped
well.
it too.
And it was funny, like we thought those guys were so good. We kind of dove in on that a little bit. But there's a lot of guys that don't like that stuff.
To get it. Mahler didn't want
I remember Brian Jordan being one of them. And wouldn't you know it, I remember in Bank One, that's what it was called at the time, he came up in a big spot against the unit, bases loaded, and he didn't have it. And I don't know if he popped up or struck out, but I'm like, God, there goes our series. You know, that was one of those things. I just felt like.
Did you want it? Did you try to get
against those guys? Absolutely.
No, against anybody.
Yeah, if you're that egregious with it, I want it.
Why? I would think I would want it. If
Yeah,
I 100% knew
come
a fastball was coming,
You gotta
But
want
I
it.
talked to Molitor at depth because Robbie Alomar. You talk about I didn't mention Robbie Alomar in Toronto. Robbie Alomar and Joe Carter, they were always trying to get the pitch. Once they supposedly had it, they would go down the hey, I got it, we got it. Molitor never wanted
There's
it.
a lot of guys who don't want it.
Really?
I will say in 15 years of playing in the big leagues, I never relayed a sign to home plate from second base. Not once in my career. But I was saying if
Does
we
it happen
could,
a lot?
It obviously happens a lot more than I was privy to.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 or 3 guys on a team that are in on it maybe. But in that was not stealing. I mean, they were blatantly giving you tells like
Yeah.
remember Glasnow a couple years ago against Houston?
Totally.
He was setting his heater low and setting this up here. I mean, if you're giving that away, you're dead.
Yeah.
Right? But
yeah.
those guys. So
right.
that was my first little taste. And then to kind of watch them go on, that was one of the best World Series of all time.
Oh.
Against the Yanks.
Oh.
Tino and
home run to get back to.
How about
Arizona?
Tino and Brocious off Byung-Hyun Kim? I was going nuts.
You were. All right, take me to Game 1 of the 2008 DS against Derek Lowe and.
I mean, for me, all those years playing in the postseason for the Braves kind of like prepared me for slowing the moment down. The way I looked at it I looked at it a little bit differently than you. I was never the can't miss guy, right? Like I wasn't a huge prospect coming up through the minor leagues. I always say I wasn't the best hitter on my high school team. I felt like I was the best athlete, but I wasn't the best hitter.
Mm-hmm.
But in big spots, I had big moments. In high school, in college, even in the minor leagues, I'm like, man, when the game gets fast, my teammates seem to want to turn to me to do something good. So I kind of carried, that was my confidence level when I went into the postseason.
And how were you able to get there?
I just really enjoyed being in those moments. I wanted to slow the game down. I wanted it to be on my terms, but I watched other people. I could see them panicking, and it kind of fueled me.
Mm-hmm.
So
you mean the opponent or just other players?
even my own teammates, not wanting that moment.
Yeah,
so
but see,
I felt like that consistently was happening.
But D-Row, you were performing the mental toughness necessary to be at your best, and maybe you didn't even realize.
No, I didn't
this
realize
is what I'm talking
it.
about.
I just fed off past experiences.
I'll backtrack
okay.
I'll backtrack to 1993. In Dunedin, as you know, we played the same teams. It was the Yankees, the Pirates. It was the Phillies in Clearwater, and we played the Phillies in the World Series that year. In 93 that we're talking about, Joe Carter, touch them all. And I came in game 1 in relief, and I got the win in game 1. I don't know what my line was, but it was two innings or so. And an old-time scout came to me right after the game. He goes, "What were you thinking? Were you nervous?" I'm like, "No, I'll be honest." His name's Gordon Lakey. He was the reason why I got traded. He was like Pat Gillick's go-to scout. And he hugs me, and it was a great moment, right on home plate. He goes, "Were you nervous?" I'm like, "No, Gordon, I'm telling you, all I was thinking about was I faced these guys a ton in Clearwater in spring training." He goes, "Yeah, but this is the World Series." I'm like,
know.
It was one of those things, like, simplify it.
Yeah.
Don't get consumed by the enormity of it, and you're going to play at your best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Tell me about Wrigley postseason experience.
Incredible.
Is it one of a kind? Like, what
I wish
else
we
is
could have
close?
gave them more, especially when I was there, 07, 08, those 2 years, especially 08. I felt like we had the best team in the National League from start to finish, the 162.
Was that
I thought Philly was
that
really
was Kerry
good.
Woods?
Philly that was more like Zambrano, Dempster. Kerry was closing.
That's right.
Marmol was coming out of the pen. He had a big year. We had Aramis was hitting bombs and Derek Lee. And you know what's interesting about like postseason stuff? I see that Derek Lowe, the homer in game 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chipper taught me how to watch video. He used to pull me in, and this is how you're going to watch video in the big leagues. This is how we do it. You go in, you watch. If I'm facing Al Leiter, I watch your last 3 starts, especially against right-handed hitters. I watch comps to me, how I think you'll attack me, certain parts in the order. I see if there's any outliers in what you do with 2 strikes or runners in scoring position.
Right.
That's what we did. Now that's called massive analytics, but we were coming up with that ourselves, right? If you fall into a pattern. So over the course of 162 games, that's tough to like really get in the weeds every day. Chipper did it, and I watch him do it. But for the most part, that's tough. When you're postseason game, you're in the weeds. So Derek Lowe, I watched every start that he threw against right-handers, and when I watched it, one thing occurred to me was he never came inside. Derek was very good. Sinker would just be like dropping off a table.
But never came in with the sinker.
He never threw the sinker into righties and landed it. If it was in off.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, everything is away.
That's great.
I eliminated half of the plate. Just eliminated half of the plate and said anything that pops above my belt, I'm in on.
Okay.
So these guys, and
So there was your
first
mental game
AB,
plan.
he did it. He threw me a sinker up, out, over, and I was able to scoop it to right field. And I'll never forget it because my next at bat, I don't know if I got a hit or walked, but I ended up on second base, and he turned around. I've known Derek a long time, played a lot of golf with him, and he just said, "Nice batting, Mark. The place is going bonkers." And he's like, "Mark, nice batting," right there. Like that is just ultimate game planning.
Yeah.
And fast forward to 2009, I went to the postseason with the Cardinals. My brother flew out to L.A. to watch the postseason, and he goes, "Take me through how you get ready for a game." And we broke out the video. We were facing Randy Wolf, and I took him through it.
Big curveball.
I faced 25 pitches that night from Randy Wolf, and I called, stepping out, readjusting 23 of them, spot on.
What?
Just a process of elimination, watching him,
How'd you do?
math. I had a good game.
What'd you have?
I think we lost. I don't remember. I had a couple
Couple
hits,
knocks.
though.
Okay.
But I remember being at third base and looking up and finding my brother in the family section, and he kind of went like, "I'm on him. I got the pitches, too." Like, he studied so hard.
Yeah.
In the postseason, You're not losing on your
So let me-
worst stuff. You're going to go get me with what you do,
100%.
right?
Except I stinking threw you a changeup.
Well, that was a lucky guess.
I might throw 2 changeups a game.
But Chipper did tell me.
I can't believe
I
that.
know.
I still can't believe that. God.
All right, let's get back to
All
you.
right.
Let's get back.
What
All
do we
right,
got?
I remember this one. Cincinnati,
Yeah.
99 wild card. You were bonker. On the turf. Last play, I believe, up the middle. You kind of like zooed it.
Up the middle is a P-Rod.
P-Rod,
Dimitri Young's bat.
Did it Edgardo Alfonso? Who
It
made
was
the
a
play?
line drive.
And caught it, game over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank God. Hey, Bobby B. So a couple things. You know, we're given opportunity in moments. I was, and I know that. And
You deserved them, though.
well, but you need other people to be in your corner.
Yeah.
And I say this, I'm not saying it gratuitously, but a couple years ago I was elected to the Mets Hall of Fame. And I got on the phone and I called Bobby. I said, and I know he's out in Southern California. He does some stuff with the Angels. I said, Bobby, I want you there. And he's like, well, no. I'm like, no, I am not in the Hall of Fame without you. And he created Mets memories for me as a result of keeping me in the game. So now fast forward to 2024 or even
Yeah.
just the most recent snapshot. Because of the way the game's managed by upstairs, they wouldn't have kept me in for 9-inning shutout game of 100 and something odd pitches. Like a lot of the moments, Game 7 or Game 5 of the 2000 World Series, 10 hopper up the middle, Louis Soho off the Yankees at the Subway Series.
Yeah.
Ball kicks away from Piazza, 2-run score. I'm in the 9th inning with 143 pitches. Like managers would get fired for that now. That game against the Yankees, after the 5th or 6th inning, they're taking me out.
Yeah.
I had a moment of 9 innings that people still talk about as a result of grinding and sweating it and, putting my heart into it. So that moment, certainly in 1999, the Reds were really good.
Really good.
And their offense was really good.
I remember
Later,
that
I find
game.
out with Sean Casey.
It was like dreary that day.
ESPN,
yeah.
Sunday night. It was like you couldn't get more like cool, like spotlight. The fans were going crazy. Everybody was half in the bag before even first pitch because it was like 8:05 start.
Was that like the last year of River?
Yeah, it was the Synergy Field, or they call it Synergy, but yeah, next door. I think it might have been. And yeah, it was a good game.
So take me through. Were you big like in the bullpen? I have good stuff today. Did you ever concern yourself with that? If you can go back to your starts, like
Yeah.
Game 7,
So I will
the
tell you that-
play-in game. When did you have the best stuff? When were you like, oof? I'm top of the line.
D-Row. I think you know me a little bit now as we're friends.
You're a worrier.
Always. No, I am always like, something's not right. Oh, that was a good cutter. The guy's like, yeah, that's good. I'm like, let me throw one better. And then you throw like
Really?
2 way up and you're like, oh God, I don't have it. I did get to a place where if my stuff didn't feel right or I was cranky, I was okay.
Yeah.
Because I'll backdoor curveball, I'll make sure I keep my slider down, stuff like that. What motivated me that night, and when I tell you a drunk crowd, I don't know where they came from, but fans right on the railing. Synergy / Riverfront, left field line. It was the old school where the bullpen was. You were throwing from the dugout, third base dugout, out to the left field wall.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, D-Row, as close as you are, the 2 mounds side by side, the one closest to the fans, I think a fan could come out and almost touch the pitcher. And they let these people just go after him. So I had to move to the other mound closer to the field. And these kids were, what. And I'm lefty. So I'm looking
right
I'm
at
looking
him.
right at him. And I'm telling you, I won't curse in this podcast. But I was like, and I wanted to.
Yeah. I'm going to stick this
and you know what I did?
5-ounce baseball.
No, the
straight
hat
up
went down
your
the whole
throat.
Dave Stewart thing. And I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, fucking. So I couldn't. And I'm telling you, it got me to but in the first inning, Edgardo pops a 2-run jack. And I thought it was like 5 runs.
I know.
It was like great. When you're feeling it. But I sprayed some in the first inning. I come in, Oral Hershiser, who was with the Mets that year. Great Oral Hershiser. So, he comes over and he puts his arm around me. And he kind of got me to hey.
Calm down.
I know you're caffeined up. You're speeding out. It's like, cool out, dude. Whatever Oral would say. I loved Oral. And then it was like, it got me, and I had a one-hitter. The ninth inning, Pokey Reese hits a double down the left field line. I remember getting the ball back from Ray Ordonez at short. And at Riverfront, the one hit for the Reds goes to 2 hits. And I remember getting the ball, and I turned around to Piazza. I'm like,
Throwing a 2-hitter.
I had a one hit. Like, I was so to that place where you just so.
You're so focused.
Yeah.
That's what people don't. I like the difference.
But again, Bobby, I don't know. You know, the Bobby Cox, whoever, your managers have to trust you.
Yeah.
And if there is that trust.
And you got to have some moments, too.
Right.
I felt I had some early knocks in my postseason career with the Braves.
Tell me
kind of
about it.
endeared me to.
Give it to me.
The veterans. That's a tough team to crack.
Totally.
So Chipper always used to say, you're not allowed to play in the card game until you get a hit that helps us win a ball game. Because there was no rookies on those teams.
Yeah.
So he would come up and you'd carry beer and make sure you had dip in your back pocket.
And you know what?
Davey Martinez, I saw him yesterday. He was an old teammate of mine.
Yeah.
Went and talked to the Washington Nationals. He used to tell me all the time. He'd be like, you never know, in the National League, we could double switch. We can pinch hit. You might go defensive replacement. Make sure you're loose. Are you loose? And I'd always be like, Davey, I'm loose. He's like, you're loose? Yeah, go get me a cup of coffee.
I love it. Well, but think about it. Here's another thing that you would appreciate, because I know we talk a lot. Chipper Jones' first year was, 96?
Yes,
World
he
Series?
blew his knee out in 95.
Okay, so again, the baton passing of an older generation.
Yeah.
How Chipper treated you was because of those old guys that he was playing with through the Braves' early 90s.
Yeah.
And then even some guys from the late 80s. And that's the thing that I think is refreshing and also important to pass. How do you play? What do you behave like? Learn from your older teammates.
Yeah.
How to present, all of it.
One of my coolest postseason moments for me was 2003. We were playing the Cubs. We eventually lost the series. Kerry Wood was on fire, and that's Bartman and the whole skit.
Yes.
It was game, I believe,
Well, if Kerry was on the mound.
right in the middle. Kerry was not on the mound for
Was that
this.
prior to?
Was it game
prior
two?
to that? Yeah,
I
prior.
think it was game 2. We were down 1-0 in the series. It was 3-3 bottom 8,
in
and I'm coming up
Wrigley
to hit
or Atlanta?
in Turner Field.
Turner.
I'm playing for Marcus Giles. He had hurt himself that day, so I was in there for game 2. And Dave Veers is on the mound, split guy.
Yeah, funky delivery.
Kyle Farnsworth is warming up in the pen, a guy I had faced all the way through the minors.
How'd you do?
He was a starter through the minors.
He threw $1 billion.
He threw $1 billion. I was much more in favor of facing Dave Veers.
Right.
But I saw Dusty, they're talking, and and I'm walking to home plate. I'm like, leave him in. Leave him in, leave him in, leave him in. Right? I just knew he was going to
Yes.
He's going to throw me a split.
Yes.
Period. And he left him in. And I hit a double in the left center gap, scored 2 runs, make it 5-3. Smoltz warms up, flames, boom, 5-3. We win, tie the series, get on the plane. I'm in the card game, and I'm getting dealt sharp tops the whole flight. I made huge money and got the game-winning hit in
Did
game
you hit
2.
Gibson's?
It was the first time I got to my hotel room. I was like, wow, like that's a night.
Yeah, that's your
That's
call
a
home.
night. I'm gonna watch highlights now in my underwear with the AC set to 58.
You didn't go to Jilly's that night?
Nah, I stayed in.
I was a
just
big fan of
dug
Jilly's.
myself on
A little
TV.
piano bar where Sinatra used to hang out.
But those moments lead to like wanting that taste again.
Totally.
Right? That's it.
You know what?
I just wanted it every
I'm glad
year.
you mentioned that. I've said this over the years that every major league player needs is kind of presumptuous, but if every major league player played in an all-star game and a playoffs, preferably a World Series,
It would change
that
the way
player's
they attack
mind
their-
is
I agree.
It'll never go back because it's part of your DNA.
I agree.
And it changed
Winning
me.
becomes paramount. And when you truly are on those teams, and every coach says it down to youth baseball, if you don't worry about your numbers and just care about the team, your numbers will be even better. And it's right.
Yeah.
But it's hard in that.
You know, and another thing, I know we're bouncing around now, but when I got traded to Toronto, the Toronto Blue Jays, through their organization, because they really developed well, and they had a lot of young players that got to the big leagues, the David Wells and the Stoudemires and so many others, Ed Sprague and Kelly Gruber and on, John Olerud. I could even go back to Jimmy Key and Dave Steve. It was a really well-run organization, and credit 100% to Pat Gillick. But even for the guys that I was with after I hurt my arm, I was in the minors, I said, guys, other organizations watch our organization. It's probably similar to you with the Braves. You're part of a winning organization, and people, other executives, other GMs want to poach the players that come out of a winning organization. And that was paramount. It was very similar to what you experienced with the Braves. Because we were on the other end of that, of knowing we had to go through you guys. And we knew your swagger, like the Yankees, was, hey, you might beat us tonight, but we'll get you.
Yeah.
Like, we knew that.
We knew you played the feeling in the Braves dugout, not it's for me to say that, I wasn't doing anything heroic, was that you guys got real tight when you played us.
Fair.
That if we just played a flat game,
flat,
you guys would do one thing wrong that cheap run might win us the game.
Fair.
Yeah, that's how that team buttoned its jerseys those years coming in there. And Chipper ate it up when those fans would call him. He loved it.
Yeah.
He ate it up.
God, if we'd have known that. Just tell everybody to be quiet.
All right, take me to Subway Series in 2000. Come on.
Well, I mean, I lived for it. Here's a guy I'm 30. How old am I? 35. I'm 35. I'm on the back end.
Yeah.
But I was so in a place of who
you
I
knew
am,
who you were,
what I am, and leading up to that, what did we do? We beat the Giants, and then we beat the Cardinals, and I was throwing the ball well, in both of those series, and it was aligned. We after '99, we traded for Mike Hampton, so it was Mike and I, and then going into that game one, Mike actually pitched the clincher for the Cardinals LCS, and I was ready for it. It's game one, Yankee Stadium, facing Andy Pettitte.
It doesn't get any
And
better.
I could tell you how comfortable I was. I remember warming up in the outfield, left center field, at Yankee Stadium, old Yankee Stadium. Love that place. And I was so into it, like in a good way. Looking around, like, yeah.
Taking it all in.
And
you probably had 40 tickets coming.
Yeah.
Probably more.
I mean, the World Series, it's like, I wasn't making
You're losing money.
You forgot. Now forget it. But it was a good game. We were winning 2-1 in the ninth, and then they tied it up, and then we lost in extra innings. And to me, I still to this day, I know I don't have a crystal ball. We win game one. I'm
Total different
you, D-Row,
series.
George was at his heightest of still like we can't lose to the Mets.
Yeah.
And that was just, and then the next game was the Piazza, the broken bat, and Clemens, and we lost to Clemens.
That went all down a dark path. Then Timo Perez didn't score on playing.
That was game one, yeah. but it was what I liked about it being in the area as we grew up, and I grew up a Mets fan. I started with the Yankees. I understand the whole pledging the allegiance of who was, and in the city, because I lived in Manhattan, like it was cool. They really embraced the World Series.
Yeah.
And it's a massive city, as we know, New York City. But it was Yankee Mets, hats everywhere, all the garb. And it was, everybody pledged.
It's so funny. You can't take it out like your fandom for the Yankees. I go back to 96. 1996, I got drafted by the Atlanta Braves. Played in short season Eugene, went to instructional league, came home after instructional league, and the Yankees played the Braves in the World Series, and I was rooting for the Yankees. I was getting paid by the Braves, and I'm like, all right, you got to let this go.
So
you
got
to eventually.
By the way, I'm so glad you said it. So 19, I'm older than you, of course. I get drafted in 84. I go to Oneonta, New York, and then I'm in 85. I'm in Fort Lauderdale. 86, I go back to Fort Lauderdale, which is Florida State League A. And the Mets go to the World Series and beat the Red Sox in the, through Buckner's legs one. And I'm back home at the Jersey Shore, and I'm watching the Mets. I'm 2 years into the minor leagues, 2.5 years in minor leagues. Who do you think I was pulling for? The Red Sox or the Mets? If my Yankee, you're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm an A-ball, man. I grew up a Mets
It's
fan.
so far away. I used to see signs when I was in Greenville. It would, down in Greenville, South Carolina. It would be like Greenville this way, Atlanta this way. And every time that bus would turn towards Greenville, and I used to say it to everyone, I said, one day we're taking a ride.
Ah, that's good. That's good. All right, what else we have?
All right, what do we got?
Toughest pitcher you ever faced?
Toughest pitcher I ever faced. I'd have to say Randy Johnson. I would. He was my first at bat in the big leagues, which is
Really?
so awesome.
Yeah.
It was so awesome. I pinch hit for Greg Maddux, Sunday Night Baseball when he was with Houston, 1998. I had Tony Graffinino's helmet. I had a Glomar bat. I don't even know if the company still exists. And I went up there, and I just remember my legs shaking so bad that I was like, I hope no one...
Astrodome or Turner?
I was at Turner Field.
Yeah.
And I said, I literally was like, the whole world expects me to punch out. This is a perfect first AB.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hack. And he struck me out on a slider. And I remember running down to first base. And the whole time I'm running down to first base, it got away from Osmus. I was like, oh, my God, Jeff Bagwell. Like, I was a fan.
Yeah.
And then I peeled off into the dugout. And I was like, I collected myself. I was like, all right, you got an AB in the big leagues, but you got to, like...
Get it.
You're playing against them now. You're not fanboying them.
Right.
So it took me a minute in that regard.
Yeah.
But I would say Randy.
That is pretty cool. I mean, the most dominant, certainly top 5 pitchers in the history of the game.
The numbers would say some pretty sketchy names, right? But I was 1 for 17. I remember the hit vividly when it was in Texas. He was with the Yankees. But he just presented. I was in that perfect game.
Wait, who was your first hit?
My first hit was Vladimir Nunez in Bank One Ballpark. I went 1 for 3 that September. We talked about that, calling up September guys. I was like, anybody need anything? Let me know.
Need some gum?
Yeah.
I'll clean the dugout after the game's over.
But Randy, 1 for 17.
All right.
So different than everybody.
Oh, please. And you talk about breathing fire and
Yeah.
swelling and like.
And he was like handing the ball to the catcher. It was like something I'd never seen before.
But Randy, he was scary. I mean, it was straight out of like Nolan Ryan,
He'd shoo
old
you
school
away.
stuff.
Get out of here. You're wasting my time.
He was
Who's the
impressive.
toughest hitter for you?
You know, I mean, I go right to Tony Gwynn.
Really?
Like the scouting report.
Left on
yes,
left?
didn't
That's
matter.
who you go to?
Well, no. I mean, I
There wasn't a righty that beat your brains in? What'd Chipper do against you?
Chipper did well.
He was looking to pull.
I can't say Chipper. No. Chipper was.
I'm trying to think of our division.
I will tell you, Mark McLemore used to hit me.
Yeah.
Doug Glanville used to hit me.
Quick in.
It was when I would face Chipper, it would frustrate me because I would do something dumb and backdoor something, or as you say, turn it over, and he'd pop a double down the line. I'm like, so Barry Bonds, I love facing Barry.
Yeah.
In a way of just like,
Compete.
come on, you're great, but I'm going to get you.
Yeah.
The bigger righties, the McGuires and Sosa and Canseco, all those guys, like I like those guys. The more you wanted to get out there, I was going to buzz you.
Buzz you in.
But Tony, the scouting report on Tony Gwynn was make sure the guys in front of him aren't on base, and he's going to hit it somewhere. Like he didn't strike out.
Yeah.
So like, let's backdoor, let's buzz the tower, let's turn a changeup over. He's going to hit it somewhere. Really, think about it. Look at his numbers in years. Struck out, walked more than he struck out, like barely, it was like, I hated those guys.
All right, what was the best team you ever played on? And that could go. See, that's the thing. It's like, are we talking most talent, or are we talking most fun?
Oh, jeez. There's so many.
It's 2 different answers.
I mean, when I get up to the big leagues, and it was a dream come true of the players. I mean, I'm in the. I can't overlook the 92-93 window of the Toronto Blue Jays. That was a Hall of Fame team.
Yeah. And
even the guys that weren't in the Hall of Fame could be in the Hall of Fame. The talks of Dave Stieb or Jim Key and those guys. But I would say that team really stood out as far as, we had, I think we had 3 or 4 Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Now Jack Marsh got in, so.
I always felt that every time, like the first day of spring, before I like really cemented myself on the team, like 02, 03, where I felt good about going to spring and having a roster spot. I used to walk in to Disney, open that door, and it was like, holy God. Because they always signed a big free agent, too. So, like, my locker was next to Gary Sheffield one year. Then my locker was next to Andres Galarraga one year. It was like,
you know what?
these are grown men.
I'm glad you mentioned Chef, because I would be remiss to not mention the 97 team, the Marlins.
That's right.
I mean, and then when we traded for Darren Dalton, who was just a dude, the late Darren Dalton, but we had Like it was a very.
You know what's
good team.
crazy? Like we're just kind of
Yep.
all the teams I was fortunate enough to go to the postseason with. I think Al, I think I went. I could be wrong. 12, 13 times in 15 years.
Wow.
Only Texas, really, and Toronto my last year.
That's impressive.
But
How many World Series?
One.
One World Series? No. How many did you get to the World Series?
One.
Oh.
Yeah. But that's what I'm going to get at. All these fantastic teams that I thought this is the year. And I could think about it with the Braves, all those teams. And I remember getting traded to St. Louis in 2009. Chris Carpenter and Adam Wainwright were at the height of their powers at the front end of that rotation. Pujols was winning the MVP. Matt Holliday was in that lineup. I was like, we're going to go through the Dodgers. And we got swept.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, God, I can't figure this thing out. The 2010 Giants go on to win the World Series, and when we got into the postseason on the last day, the last day we clinched against the Padres at home. Jonathan Sanchez started the game. I'll never forget it. And we get into the postseason, and I'm like, hey, flip a coin. Who knows? I wasn't playing. I was hurt, but just watching the guys go about it, and then you started to see every game the ball was bouncing our way. Guys who hadn't hit home, like it was. I'm like, oh my God,
Was Renteria there?
we're gonna win it. Yeah, he won the MVP.
That year,
He
yeah.
took Cliff Lee deep. We went into Philly. Pat Burrell calls basically in the team meeting. He said, listen, I played in Philadelphia for years.
Yeah.
They're going
Pat Burrow was another one.
they're going to lean on us. They're going to want to break us, intimidate us, the fans, the team. It's going to get weird for a minute. He goes, the first guy who looks at you wrong on their side, we're bench clearing. And if you go back to that game, it's Pat. Halliday buzzes him or whatever happens, and Pat looks back, and Halliday looks at him, and here we kind of, it was kind of like our, we're not scared.
Yes.
And I mean, they were so talented that year. But then Cody Ross hit the 2 homers off Halliday, and I'm like, here we go. Holy shnikes.
God, that was
It's
good.
going.
How about talented? I know how much more we have here, but who was the most talented player? I know it won't be a pitcher, but
We were talking about this a little, like, leading up, because this is a tough question, and it's like just sheer. Like, I look at the game today, and I say Bobby Witt's the most talented, most baseball player playing. Like, he does everything, right? Some names that, I mean, obviously the Chippers and the Andrews of the world are super talented, but when I think of just pure baseball tools, when we break it down to tools, J.D. Drew was so ridiculous. J.D. Drew could do everything.
what happened?
He had a pretty nice
No, but I'm
career.
saying, well, I mean, you play with Chipper Jones and Albert Pujols.
No,
You didn't
just
mention that.
watching JD, like he had a hose. He had power
Okay.
to all fields. He could do, there was nothing he couldn't do on a field.
Yeah, I got you.
And then St. Louis in 2009, I got a chance to play with Rick Ankiel, another guy where I was like, oh my God.
Was he a hitter by then?
Think of what he did.
Was he still a pitcher?
He was a hitter. Think of what he did.
I know.
He was the top pitching phenom in the game. I was there the day he lost it in the postseason. St. Louis versus Atlanta. He started throwing balls off the backstop. We were all like, what the hell is going on? Everyone's take. Take until he figures it out.
Dero.
Do you remember that?
I was in the box. He pitched against me. That was my game.
Did he do it before that and then double down on it in ours? Whatever
No,
the case
no. It was
may
your
be.
game because the
They
Cardinals
beat us.
beat you guys. Thankfully, we didn't have to deal with that. The whole you guys got it on us. I pitched against Rick Ankiel. Thankfully, I guess for the embarrassing part, and it was so sad when I see the Gibbs on a guy, that Tony La Russa took him out right before he faced me. I'm on deck.
He would have killed you.
He was throwing stuff at. I'm left on left, and he's throwing a billion. I'm like, this guy's gonna hit me.
Yeah,
hit me
he
somewhere.
might have.
And he
But think about that. And then for him to go down, first off, to walk away, then go down and say, can I try hitting?
Unbelievable.
And he was Gold Glove caliber center fielder with an absolute hose and hit bombs. God. He didn't get enough love for what I know it was kind of mishmashed. He was crazy good. How about you? You think it's like somebody?
Talent?
Yeah.
Ricky Henderson. I think Ricky,
Who didn't love Ricky?
Oh, he's great. He was great. He really was. I mean, I had him with the Yankees when I first got called up. And then he went to Oakland. Then when I was traded to Toronto, we traded for him to go to Toronto, 93 World Series.
Yeah.
And then Steve Phillips at the Mets
Got him at the Mets.
got him over with
I
the Mets.
remember that.
So I was around Ricky a lot. Great teammate, a lot of fun, always smiling, always laughing. But I think when you look at his numbers, D-Row, outside of the home run, like he was an unbelievably dynamic baseball player. And underrated left fielder. You know, he didn't have a great arm.
Yeah.
But I would say Ricky probably, as far as all around.
Yeah.
I mean, played with some good ones, right? Maybe Chef is in there. I thought Devon White was extremely not underrated because he was Gold Glove. But we had
Andrew Jones.
You had
the
Andrew
game
Jones.
came super.
There you go, Andrew
game
Jones.
came super easy to him. I mean,
I thought Paul Molitor, I got him at the end of his career, and I faced him earlier. Like, you talk about a dude and a gamer and fast and aggressive and played the game right.
him.
Ended up hurting his arm, and they had to DH and put him, move him around. But
You mentioning Ricky Henderson as the most talented player you played with. Give me a good story, Ricky.
all right, so I'm only going to
Come
say
on.
it because anybody who's ever been around Ricky, teammate or knows him, this is a story of affection and affinity. 1999, we're struggling. Steve Phillips fires pitching coach, hitting coach, bullpen coach, wipes him out. Bobby Valentine's pissed. You're getting rid of my guys. I'm pitching that night. It's Sunday night against the Yankees, Yankee Stadium against Roger Clemens, and I'm struggling at this time. It's June. We come in from the bus, whatever, from Shea, and we're sitting there. And the way Kakuza used to do back in the day, the old stadium, it was numbers 1 through whatever. He wasn't playing around with weird. So I'm 22 and Ricky's 24. So I'm right next to Ricky and we're sitting here. And I look at him like, man, and I'm starting. So I'm starting to get game mode. I said, man, that's messed up, right? They fired Robbie. And Ricky looks at me, Robbie? Who's Robbie? I said, Tom Robson. He was like, who's that? And it's like so good.
The guy has been flipping to you for the first half of the year.
Since February. It's St. Lucie. He's throwing you flips. But it was like, classic Ricky, which I get. Like, because a lot of guys have, they have nicknames, for guys. And but it just struck me. I was like,
God.
And he wasn't saying it just, he was
No.
just like,
He really didn't know.
Yeah.
Kind of jumping off that. I do a rehab assignment. I think it's 2011. 11? With San Francisco. I go down to Fresno. Bum's down there. Bumgardner. He's gonna make a start down there. He's working back up from something. He gets, him. If he's not in the mood, he's just gonna get chucked, right? So he doesn't like the way the game's going. Tells the umpire what he thinks. He's gone. As he's walking off the field in Fresno, Ricky Henderson's coaching first base for the Oakland AAA affiliate, whoever that was at the time. Ricky kind of utters something at him. I couldn't tell what it was from third base. And Mad Bum, oblivious to who Ricky Henderson is. He has no idea. He, lets him know.
Oh.
And keeps walking. Ricky's like, damn, what are you doing? So, wait, I go in the dugout after the third out's made, and I run up the tunnel. I'm like, Mad Bum. He's like, yeah. I'm like, you know who's coaching first base? He's like, I have no idea. I'm like, that's Ricky Henderson. He went back out and said he was like, hey.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good.
They lose their minds.
You know the most famous, one of many, but when he was with us in 99 with the Mets, John Olerud was our first baseman. The next spring, Ole signs a multi-year deal with Seattle. Ricky signs with Seattle. They're in spring training out in Peoria. Ole had to wear a helmet because he had an aneurysm.
Yeah.
He always promised his dad, I'll always wear a helmet around just in case of injury. He's in the field, and Ricky comes up to Ole and says, hey, what's up with the helmet? Oh, well, I had an aneurysm. I promised my dad. Really? I played with a guy in New York that it turns out everybody who heard that story, they're thinking, yeah, it was a Fugazi story.
Was it?
Scott Lawrenson, our assistant trainer, made the story up, and it went viral.
Oh, my God.
And the only reason why it went viral is because
It's believable.
Yeah. Oh, I played with a guy who wore a helmet. Ole turns to him and says, yeah, that was me.
All right. Thanks for joining myself and Al Leiter. Hopefully you had some fun with some old school postseason war stories.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah,
That was
nice.
fun, D-Row.